I've been getting asked constantly by many players to make a tutorial for VHS's newest robotic monster, Deathwire. So here it is, and if you learn anything, leave a like, subscribe, turn on notifications for when I go live. Okay, let's go. So the first thing I want to go over is his mutations. This is the #1 thing I get asked. What is Deathwire's best mutations? And to that, I gotta say, you really should just experiment with them yourself. Some of these mutations drastically change how you play Deathwire and which weapons are more effective against him. They change timing of your abilities and certain mechanics that I just can't go over in length in this video. So really take the time to test them all for yourself. Even I found some that I disliked at first, but after a full day of playing with it, I can't go back to other mutations. But if you really want my opinion, here are the ones I like switching between that don't give a massive downside for their benefit, to me at least. Deathwire excels in getting around the map quicker than any other monster and whenever he wants, since his drift mode is almost always available. Drift mode also is a tiny bit more silent compared to normal monster footsteps, so he can often hear teens crafting more easily, since teens might not know he's in the area to get off the bench before it's too late. So use drift mode to your advantage, not just in chases, but you also always want to use it to traverse the map. Now of course ambushes are still a thing currently, and gonna be honest, there's not much you can do while in drift mode, except quickly turn out of the way to drift from an ambush or press the opposite key of the direction you're moving to drift. That'll perform like a drift maneuver and you'll quickly go backwards or sideways, whichever opposite direction of your movement. So that can work sometimes, but if you're already getting slowed even by a single ray gun shot or something, you can't do the drift maneuver. You can still stay in drift mode. Ambushes are honestly your main concern while in drift mode, so be cautious and try to jiggle peek corners or move around cover and not in a straight line as much as you can. The second you start taking damage from an ambush, you can't drift out of it or do much of anything except a melee attack to turn into assault mode. You can't even hold your button back down to turn into assault mode. You have to melee out of it. And speaking of melee attacks, when you melee out of drift, you actually have a very strange lunge that you do. I don't exactly know how to describe it, but if you find that you're missing the attacks a lot more coming out of drift mode, try only turning your mouse and not hitting any other key direction. The lunge mechanic out of drift has like 2 bursts of speed, and hitting any key besides the direction you're moving, which is probably holding W, will make you swing just short of hitting someone most of the time or fling you way off target. So again, just move your mouse to aim the punch and hold W and you'll lunge much further out of drift mode and into assault mode. And if you still feel that you miss a lot of the punches, just press the key to get out of drift mode before swinging at a teen instead. It'll save you more time than missing an attack altogether. Plus, it's really easy for teens to spin a Deathwire when they're punching out of drift mode. Deathwire chasing an unarmed teen is pretty easy, just drift mode up to them, smack them again to catch up. If a vault is coming up in the teen's route, just shock the teen before they get to the vault so they can't vault. Easy peasy. Shocking at vaults is one of the strongest powers Deathwire has in a chase, and it saves you a ton of time. Now chasing an armed teen is a bit more difficult because you need a shock to catch up and keep momentum on them mid-chase, and by the time you space yourself up to them, if they reach a vault, you may only have 1 shock available, or none at all up and ready. This is why you really have to try to get as close as possible and time your shock well. Spacing is so important with Deathwire because if you shock a teen who is just out of reach, you'll have to wait another 7+ seconds while they're overcharged so you can shock them again. And it just wastes time in a chase. You'll learn when playing and get it down pretty quickly for when the best time to shock a teen is. This will also change depending on the weapon the teen has. For example, if they have an Enigma, you can be slightly further away to shock them, since by the time you catch up, they still won't be able to fire the Enigma because of its long charge up. A cursed sword is very annoying against Deathwire, for example, because often when you are charging up a shock to fire at a teen, they'll shoot 1 wake of the sword your way, and then the entire time they are shocked, you still can't catch up since you'll be slowed by the sword. With a weapon like that, you kind of just have to keep wasting their weapon charges and rinse and repeat, or find a new route to surprise them. Maybe fake charge up some shocks so they waste more of their sword, and then shock them for real afterwards. Also, preemptively shocking stairways or other places you might be suspecting an ambush is never a bad thing to do, and could definitely save your life if you get a lucky shock on a would-be ambusher. When there are more than 1 teen pressing you with weapons, you gotta be extra cautious. You don't have armor that affects the entire map or a howl that can hit all teens around you. You simply have 2 shocks, and you have to try and position yourself close enough to a potential target to shock them and hit them before being hit by one of their teammates' weapons. Use cover as much as possible, fake charge shocks to waste their ammo, shock the friend first, and then shock the person you're going after so you have more time to catch them. Also, finding good positions to where you can shock 3 or even 4 people at once is great. That's all in the moment gameplay, and there aren't really tips I can give on how to align yourself with wherever teams are standing in your own match. When there are multiple people on you, you also can't really afford to enter drift mode, because if you are slowed at all, the only way out of it is to punch to get back into assault mode where your shocks are available. Unless of course you have Nitro Booster, which allows for some crazy plays like this that you can do mid-chase. As for Deathwire's scan ability, I'll always recommend using it far away from benches you're scanning, since you can cover more ground that way. Using the second scan mutation is 30% bigger as well, and depending on how far you are, you can sometimes scan 4 or 5 bench rooms and find teens very easily. The scan is also on a 20-second cooldown as well, unless of course you hit a teen, which puts all of Deathwire's abilities on a short cooldown for balancing reasons. That's why I feel like pairing Scream Fast with Deathwire is a must, because after shocking and hitting someone when all your abilities are on cooldown, you'll have plenty of time to catch up before your next shock is available. Compared to if you didn't have Scream Fest, you'd have to wait even longer for your shock to be back up. But back to the scan is really great for finding teens, or even being used mid-chase to check behind corners to see if anyone is coming in for a quick ambush. Although using it mid-chase is much better if you have the scan's third mutation on, Error Tracer, so you don't lose any footing in a chase. Also, while scanning, you can slightly move left and right to cover just a bit more of the map with the scan, so definitely do that. Now, I don't know if any of this helps. I generally feel sometimes like me giving tips and tutorials is just me saying, well, just get good and just do it, forehead. It's easy. But I hope this came across as at least a bit helpful for all the people that asked for this tutorial. And remember, you can also learn a lot from just watching. I have tons of streams, at least 20 plus hours of Deathwire footage alone, from me first starting as him and losing every single game to now winning almost every game as him. What I can't describe in tips and tutorials, maybe you can learn by just simply watching the gameplay for itself and seeing what I do and how I move through the map. I really think movement, spacing, and timing are the biggest components to playing Monster in VHS. If you can get those down to a T, you'll be well off for all future monsters. But yeah, I hope this video helped, and if it did at all, leave a comment or let me know what I can improve on in the future. Drop a like, a sub, go follow my Twitch if you want, and I'll see you all in the next video.